Now let's talk about something called singular and plural nouns, okay? So, you know how if you have a dog, that's a common noun. You don't capitalize the word dog, but it's a thing. A dog is a thing. What happens if we have dog? Oh, I wish I could draw a dog. Ooh. Okay. Oh, not too bad. That's a dog. But what happens if there are more than one dog? Oops. Oh, I'm terrible at drawing pictures. Kind of looks like a monkey. Maybe some of you can give me some help. Okay, this is a dog. This is dogs. So this is singular. This is plural. So when we're writing, really, we have to do a little bit of a change with the spelling, right? Because we have to communicate to the reader by spelling it correctly what we're trying to say. And so with the word dog, we add an S, okay? S to make it plural. So how does that look in a sentence? The dog is brown. The dog is brown. Singular, common noun. Dog. The dogs ran. Well, that tells the reader there's more than one dog. All we do is add an S. Now, this is more really like a spelling lesson, and you want to be sure that you're using some spelling lessons to help you with spelling. But I still want to do this because we need to teach you the difference between singular and plural nouns. So that's how we change the spelling. So here we would say this is plural, this is singular when we are using our magnifying glass to identify singular nouns and plural nouns. Singular noun, plural noun. Okay? So let's do a little test. Is this a singular noun or a plural noun? Today we're going to learn one final thing that we put in the common problem section in that subject-verb agreement. That sounds like a big phrase, but it's really not that hard because when you read the sentence, it will make sense or it will not make sense. If you've used the wrong verb with the right subject, then it's confusing. So let's look to see what is correct. Let's read the first sentence. Birds eat worms. That sounds right. That's because the word birds is a plural subject. That means there's more than one bird. And to use the right verb, which is the plural verb, it is the word eat. Imagine if you put a letter S here. It would read, birds eats worms. It doesn't even sound right. So we have to put the correct verb, okay? So now, look at the second one. The bird is a singular subject. It's only one. Who or what are we talking about? Only one, the bird. And what does the bird do? The bird eats worms. So we have the word eats with an S on it. Imagine if we didn't put the S there. The bird eat worms. That doesn't make sense, so it has to have an S. Let's look at two more. The cows graze in the field. More than one cow? Yes, so it's a plural subject. Therefore, we need a plural verb. Graze. We would not say the cows grazes in the field. You see, it doesn't make sense. So all we really have to do is check to see if it makes sense, okay? How about this one? The cow is a singular subject. It's only one cow. The cow grazes in the field. It has a singular verb. So these verbs all are action verbs, and they all have to match their subject, whether they are singular or plural. We would not say the cow graze in the field. That doesn't make sense. So let's see if you can find my error. Now we're going to learn about action verbs in action. So we've been learning a lot about how do I use adjectives to make my writing more interesting and descriptive. Well, the same thing is something we can do with action verbs. So let's look at the sentence that I'm about to write on the board after I write it on the board. But first, do you remember what an action verb is? An action verb is a word that tells what the subject does. So if I say, I cried, I am the subject. What did I do? Cried. Okay? Yes. So let's see if we can come up with a basic sentence like, Rico sat down in the chair. What is the action verb in this sentence? Sat. What could we do to change this so that it's more interesting, making the action more like a movie? On the first page, you have these little explosion things that say, show, don't tell. So this, we kind of showed it. But what word could we use here instead of sat? Plopped. Ah, yes, plopped. Now listen to this sentence. Rico plopped down in the chair. Do you see a different mind movie than sat down in the chair? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. 100 times yes. Okay? So, how about this? I have another one for you. Now, let's jump back to the paragraph, but let's talk about the paragraph in the form of a certain kind of writing. So there are a lot of different writing styles that we take on, or purposes, I guess you could say, in our writing. So why do we write this? Why do we write that? And one of those is called expository writing. Expository writing is spelled like this. Expository. And it means to inform, explain, or describe. All of those are possibilities. And when you write with informing, that just means you're telling someone about something. If you're writing to explain, you're explaining something. And if you're describing something, you're describing something, right? Those are all easy for us to think about. So we are going to write our first expository paragraph in this particular section. And so we are going to be thinking about writing sentences that either inform, explain, or describe based on what the assignment is. But before we do that, let's go and read the paragraph together that's in your book here. So you notice that we have the opening sentence marked. There's an indentation right there before the first sentence, and then we have the body and the closing sentence. So let's read it together. All right, so we're going to talk about the narrative because there are several things that you want to be sure that you remember about writing a narrative. First of all, the narrative, when you're finished with it, looks like a paragraph. You remember how we have an indent and then it just has sentence after sentence? It will look like a paragraph. But the information that you give is a story. It's about an event that happened to you, something that happened to you. And each event is listed inside there. So the narrative, though, begins with the hook. So you know how in a paragraph we have an opening sentence? Well, we're going to call that a hook in the personal narrative. And really, all a hook is just a way to introduce your story. It's a sentence that introduces your story, just like an opening sentence introduces a paragraph. It tells you what the paragraph is about. But since it's a story, we want to do a hook, so we want to say something kind of crazy, like to grab the reader's attention. Probably use an exclamation mark or something like that. So a hook, and then instead of having details, oh, I almost wrote detail. We want to just list events. Now, obviously, this looks like a planner, an organizer, but in the paragraph, we'll just have the events listed in order. And we will want to use transition words like first, blah, 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 blah. Next, blah, 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 blah. Then, blah, 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 blah. Finally, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, that's what a personal narrative is all about. It's putting these events in chronological order using transitions. So let's look at the one in the textbook.